Measure G is on the ballot for LA County voters. A yes vote is for expanding the number of seats on the Board of Supervisors from 5 to 9 members. It would also make the county CEO an elected position along the lines of a mayor. That role is currently appointed by board members. A no on Measure G means you want things to stay the way they are.
Measure was proposed by Supervisors Lindsey Horvath and Janice Hahn. Board Chair Lindsey Horvath joins us now live. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Why should voters pass this?
This change is long overdue. It is a reform package in the making, and the governance structure hasn't changed in more than 100 years in Los Angeles County. The last time a change happened, there were more cows than people, and women didn't have the right to vote. This change means that we'll bring government closer to the people. We will separate out the executive authority from the legislative authority, creating a check and balance that's long overdue and has been missing from county government. And we are creating an independent ethics commission to hold elected officials accountable to the values that people expect them to hold. And all of this will be done without additional cost to taxpayers. It's actually written into the charter amendment that we can't raise taxes to do this. We're going to do this within our existing budget. So it's not about government bloat. It's about bringing government closer to people and making sure we get the work done.
What's the difference this time around? Because I believe there's been an attempt 8 times in the past, most recently in 2020, to expand the board, and voters have said no. So what's the difference this time?
So in the past, it has these proposals have come piecemeal. A couple of times there's been proposals for board expansion. A couple of times there's been proposals for creating an elected executive. Never has this package been put together, wrapped with ethics at the heart of this package. And so making sure that we are restoring public trust, that we are putting checks and balances into the government is essential. And that's why this package is different than the past attempts.
So there are critics of this, and let's go through some of the criticism and give you a chance to operate. First off, you say it's not going to raise costs at all. We're not going to raise taxes.
That's right.
But the money needs to come from somewhere, because all of a sudden you're going to have now 9 people instead of 5. You have all of their staffs that go along with that. You've got this county CEO, you've got the ethics, all this stuff costs money. So what gets cut?
So we don't have to cut services to make this happen. In fact, what we need to do is use our administrative costs better and smarter for the people. We already spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the Board of Supervisors to do its job. And we also have hundreds of positions in the existing CEO office. So there's a lot of money and a lot of positions already on our administrative side of the house, not on the services side, that we can rearrange and use better and smarter. And we actually did, my colleagues brought forward a motion that we all passed to have the auditor controller do a fiscal analysis of what this would cost. He said it would cost $8 million. Now that's not nothing, but out of a close to $50 billion budget, when we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars already on the administrative side, we can find that money and do better for Angelenos. We have to.
The CEO currently is appointed, oversees that almost $50 billion budget. There are critics who say that why do we have to elect this person? We already have a mayor. It seems like another mayoral position. What about, would this come with term limits?
So this position is not just asking our current CEO to run for office. We are separating out the executive authority that the board enjoys and creating a new branch of government to create a check and balance. We learned early in civics that there is an executive, a legislative, and a judicial branch of government. Except in Los Angeles County, it's the only government of its kind on the planet. And that's why things get stuck, because there's no one holding it accountable. Our CEO doesn't have the authority to hire and fire. That resides with the Board of Supervisors. Our CEO doesn't have the authority to oversee and implement departmental change. That exists with the Board of Supervisors. Just this week, we completed departmental evaluations for our directors of departments. We do that too as the board. That authority needs to exist with an executive who can administer that work each and every day and implement the change that the board is calling for, and more importantly, that Angelenos are calling for.
You know, folks opposed to this, including Catherine Barger, the supervisor, says that's too much power for one person that's going to be in charge now of 10 million people, including without term limits, and that they could be in there forever. You're basically creating a king or a queen of Los Angeles.
Well, actually, the reason it wouldn't have term limits initially is because that's what the California Constitution says. The sheriff doesn't have term limits. The district attorney doesn't have term limits. The county assessor doesn't have term limits because any county-wide official in any county in California doesn't have term limits. But I've already found state legislators who are who are willing to make that change should this pass if the voters really want to see term limits on that position. And I can see why that's the case, but it's the California Constitution that determines that. What we want to see, though, is not a person who's over the Board of Supervisors. That's why we shared the power. This position would hire, but the board would have authority to confirm people, confirm directors. They would have the authority to fire, but if the board wanted to keep a director, they could by a 2/3 vote to keep them. So there's a balance of power in how these roles have already been designed by the charter, and the Governance Reform Task Force will continue to work on what implementation looks like to ensure that there is a fair check and balance in this sharing of power.
We have less than 30 seconds. I want to talk to you about a motion that was passed yesterday that was introduced by Catherine Barger and Holly Mitchell, and this is to increase transparency at the board, allow more public input when it comes to when you introduce a motion. It gives the public more time to weigh in on a motion before something becomes law. This was supposed to start, I believe, if passed, in January of 2025. You want it to, when will it start? Because as far as I understand, you voted not to have it start in January 2025. So when would that?
I actually voted to support the report back. The motion changed on the floor. It went from a directive to the county council to immediately change the law and implement it January 1st, because there were a lot of questions that we raised, questions that couldn't be answered yesterday. And I think those questions deserve to be answered so we know exactly how the county government will be working better for the people. That's why in Measure G, we actually wrote into this charter amendment, if people pass it, that a practice that's typically called the green sheet, dropping a motion on a board agenda the Friday night before the Tuesday meeting. Nobody likes that. We are writing that into the charter amendment to get rid of it forever. So that's something that, regardless of how who's on the Board of Supervisors, that would change with this charter amendment. And I think that kind of change is essential.
If G passes, that's big changes for LA County. The biggest changes in over a century. So we'll see and see what happens on Election Day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing your views. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.